So I'm going to give you something you might not. It depends on what you mean by fundraising, and if you think about fundraising in the right way, I think it's 100% of the time. Everything an executive director is doing should constantly be thinking about building relationships. If you think about fundraising in the broad context of building relationships, building the brand, even if the executive director is directly involved in delivering parts of the programs or services. I'm dealing with an organization right now that is struggling to understand this, but the executive director says, I spend all my time, working with our clients, and our clients are coming to us for particular kinds of service. And I said, you know what, those clients in 4 or 5 years, they might be your donors, and so you need to be thinking about building relationships with them that are long-term relationships. I know that's not what you were asking, and I don't have a magic formula for you because it depends on every organization in terms of how much time you actually put into development planning and meeting with your development director, et cetera. But I usually answer that question with, it's got to be 100% all the time.
And we do have a great strategic plan. We have a strategic development plan now that we haven't had in the past. And I know you cited that McKinsey report. And I'm sort of looking for that third-party, person report that can build that case for. And I do think of it in the broader issue. It's about building those relationships, keeping those relationships up, making the phone calls, sending the emails, sending the handwritten card, whatever, going for coffee, whatever that takes.
And a lot of that is you managing the ED, you managing the board member. We have a development committee on our board.
You.
No, but we, just the staff, the agencies. Well, it's because we have to, whether we're managing our board, or we're managing our ED, or we're managing our program director. I mean, if I had to just look at Kent, and I feel like I'm very blessed that I work for probably one of the best EDs in town. But I mean, it's not to say I don't walk in and, he's got financials, and somebody's asked him for find this specific check on this specific day, for something, and so he's got his head on much paper. But in general, and I wouldn't even say that Kent is necessarily in my office all the time with the down and dirty, like exactly how many people have signed up or what's going on, or hey, Ann, exactly where are we on the grants? But he knows. He knows because he looks at the material that crosses my desk and his desk, and he is aware of how much money is coming through the door. He's aware of the flow, and he daily writes cards. I don't even have to go in his office now and say, hey, did you write a card or an email or a phone call to these 10 people? He's already done it. He randomly just picks donors out of the database that he's never heard of before and writes a card to them. And it's sharing, and if our CEOs and maybe even our board presidents aren't in that mindset, it's providing the tools. Here's all the cards are already addressed, could you just write a card? We work with our board and we've made it very easy. Here's the email, phone number, address, here's what they gave, here's a little snippet, we keep it manageable. Here's 5. And we work to push it out. So again, it's not just 3 people in an office. It's that, and he's done a lot to that, but I think he's also recognized and seen that it is his 100. At the end of the day, if we're not making our money, if we're not raising or bringing resources in for those families and they don't have a place to stay, it's his fault. And he recognizes that. It's the board's fault. It's my fault too. But he takes on the responsibility that at the end of the day, Ronald McDonald has to work. He's got to do the job of being the ED and make it work. And I think that's why he would probably answer, it's 100% of his time, whether he's looking at that financial document or he's gone to Bastrop with Beverly to talk at a Rotary Club, which she drags him all over Central Texas. He does it because at the end of the day, it means the family's got a place to stay.
That's right. Anybody else, any other feedback or comments from the panel?
Just from someone who sometimes is on the other side of, that if there are EDs that never are out in the community, and I'm talking about whether it's going to the AFP luncheon or going to, something else where people who are funders can at least say hello to them, and if they're not known, out there, because quite honestly, I've lived here my entire life. I have been at the Community Foundation for 15 years. About probably 10 years ago, I walked into, I was one of the judges on the Austin Under 40 Awards, and there was a person there who had been the executive director of a nonprofit I was very familiar with, who had been the executive director for at least 10 years. I had no idea that's who he was, okay? And it's because he was invisible, and that organization suffered the entire tenure of that executive director's time, and they've run through several more, but the next three, you know what? They were out and people knew their names. And if you don't know someone's name, and I mean, because it's about connecting. It's who cares what XYZ charity does if you don't connect to it in a way which is often through a person. You know, and it may be the development director, and that may be fine, but the executive director needs to have a face in the community to show that their organization is part of this community and connected.
Right.